Here we are. We're going to be talking about cycles today, which is a video I made. When did I make it? Let's see, 2010. So it's even earlier than the one I did last week. So I'll have even less of a memory of making it. Already I can see it's going to be interesting because it looks like it's entirely done in two compositions, which is unusual. Well, I guess it makes sense with this particular one because it is just one long scene, so it was probably just too difficult to split it up into separate comps. So let me just check the chat, see if anyone's got any questions before I begin. What version of After Effects do I use? I use CS5 at the moment. I think I might have used an earlier version for this though. I'm not sure if CS5 was around in 2010. Someone's asking me how I find the music. This is all music that I make myself, and all my own personal videos use my own music because I just like my own music and I've been making it for years. So it makes sense to put it in my videos. My voice is creepy, says somebody. I've no doubt it is. Did I make 3D models for the dancing rabbits in the 7 billion video? No, that's all two-dimensional. I'll probably be talking about that video at some point in the future if I keep doing these streams. Wow, it's good to see so many people here in the chat. And hello to everyone. So let's start talking about this particular video. How did this begin? This actually began years before I even made it, which sounds kind of strange. The idea for it I had years before, but the idea back then was to just have my hands coming into the screen, picking things up. So it'd still be just a video of the street like this, but I'd be coming in and moving things around with my hands, and that was years before I made this. And in the meantime, loads of TV adverts and stuff started doing that same thing where hands come in and pick things up, and so it became a little bit of a cliche which I didn't want to use. So I had the idea of maybe having some kind of animated character within this scene that could do all the manipulating instead. And yeah, teddy bears. The reason it's full of teddy bears is because I made a teddy bear. I wanted to use it. I entered this competition for Channel 4 where you had to submit a storyboard for some kind of channel ident, and then they judge which one was the best and stuff like that. And yeah, I ended up winning, which was fun. The storyboard I submitted was involved teddy bears being minced by industrial machinery in amusing ways. But then, because it was just a storyboard, it wasn't an actual finished animation, and I'd spent all that time making this teddy bear, so I wanted to use it for something. Because this isn't an actual teddy bear that exists in reality. This is entirely made from bits of other bears. I'd take the ears from one bear and the face from another bear and stitch them all together in Photoshop. So I thought, yeah, let's do something with this bear, why not? Such a lovely bear. So yeah, this is Worthing seafront. I moved to Worthing in 2009 or 10, and decided I wanted to do something with it. So I went down the street with my camera, set it up on the tripod, and just filmed the cars going past. For however long, half a minute maybe. Not much interesting happens in this clip, but that was kind of the idea of the whole thing, was to take the most uninteresting piece of footage and try and actually make something interesting out of it. And that's a kind of a recurring theme with a lot of my videos. So yeah, as you can see here, we have a composition with 392 layers in it, but not all at the same time. They're all spread over a couple of minutes in time, but it still looks like it's going to be a little bit complicated. And like I say, I haven't looked at this for about 6 years, so it's going to be an adventure for all of us. So where did I begin with this? Let me scroll through all my layers and see what's going on. Right. So here we've got a layer which is a copy of the background layer, but it's just the road, and it's been frozen in time. So I've gone through the video and just picked a bit where the road is empty and masked it off and put it over the background, so the background can still move but the road just remains empty. So there's a lot of interesting stuff going on in this video to talk about. There's general video manipulation, there's a bit of rotoscoping going on, and character animation. So yeah, lots to talk about. The first thing we notice, apart from an enormous teddy bear jumping over on the right is this car that keeps repeating. So let's have a close look at this car because we use this quite a lot. So this car is just one of the many cars that passed me by that day, but for some reason I thought I wanted to use that one. So what did I do? I had to mask around it. I had to draw a mask around it and then animate the mask to follow the movement of the car. So if you're wondering how to go about doing something like that, well, let me just duplicate this layer a second and take the masks off. Well, let's just take the keyframes off of the mask. So if you don't know how to draw a mask, it's as simple as drawing a shape with the tool. And once you've got your mask in the shape of a car, now cars don't really change shape much when they move around, which is handy. So the idea is you make one keyframe at this point, you go forwards in time, make another keyframe, and then just move the mask over. And then you can change the size of it, because the car is going to change shape a little bit as it moves past you. And you can grab all these points and move them around. Let me change the colour of that just so you can see it better. Yeah, I'm doing this very roughly, but just to give you the idea. You don't actually have to be too neat with this because the background behind it is going to be the same. So to illustrate that point, there's our mask, but we've got a background layer behind it of the road itself. So yeah, you can be a little bit messy with the mask and get away with it. Because if I move that, the background is the same. And yeah, once you've got the keyframe of the mask at two different points, then the program kind of tries to in between them, but as you can see it doesn't quite work properly, so you have to go through adjusting it bit by bit, which is a lot of work. And you can see here how many keyframes I ended up doing. And I added another mask here for the shadow of the car. Because it would look a bit weird without a shadow. So yeah, that's the car, and then once you've got that, you can just copy and paste it as many times as you want, have it repeating, and mess around with it. I'll get to that later on, I think. Let me just check the chat, see if there's any questions. If you put my name in the front of your question, then I'll see it more easily. Let's have a look. Someone's asking, is the music too loud? Did somebody say? I can turn the music down a touch. How long in average does it take to make these goofy pieces of artwork? Asks Thunder Biscuit. Pieces of artwork. This one in particular, I can't remember, maybe 2.5 weeks maybe? Because it's kind of simple. The more different scenes there are in an animation, the longer it tends to take. Maybe 3 weeks. Is there anywhere we could send you our videos to check out? Would just be cool to know you'd seen it. Yeah, you're always welcome to just email me like a link to a video you've made. I can't guarantee that I'll reply. But yeah, people sometimes email me stuff they've made. That's cool. How long did it take to make the one with the zombie cats? Now that one took ages. That one took, oh god, how long was it? It was more than a month, maybe a month and a half. And that was with 2 of us working on it as well, because a friend of mine was doing all the illustrations for it. But I'll talk about that video another day. Was there any consensus on whether the music was too loud? Because I can turn that down a bit. Let's see. Would you ever release the source files so we can dig around ourselves? And the answer to that is no. No. The source files are all mine. Why are your animations so bizarre? Somebody asks. I don't know. I guess it's just because I want to see weird things. So, just adjust the volume a touch. How's the volume of the music now? Right, let me just see. Will these After Effects streams be archived? Yes, they should be. They should be being archived on Twitch, and I'll be uploading them to YouTube as well. So how's the music now? Is that alright? It's not hurting your ears. I've got music in the background just because sometimes I forget to talk and I don't want to have a weird silence. Someone keeps asking me about using squids in an animation. For some reason. Cool. So let's continue with what we're looking at here. Bears have appeared. Bears jumping around, waving to us, crossing the road. So let's find ourselves a bear. Let's go bear hunting. Somewhere in this timeline is a bear. Where, oh where? Bear crossing? That looks like it's the bear. Or is it? Oh, there's nothing there. No bear. That's strange. Oh. Let's have another look at that. There's the bear. So these are the bear layers. Oops. And each layer has been given a mat corresponding to the building that it's climbing over, which is why half of it is invisible there. So yeah, this is very basic character animation. You have arms and legs and head and whatever else. And each layer is parented onto whatever it's stuck to, in this case the body, so that you can move the body around. Oops. For some reason it keeps disappearing whenever it moves, I'm not entirely sure why. So yeah, I talked about parenting last week. It's just joining one layer onto another layer so that you can move stuff around. And the whole thing is all attached to this layer here, which is invisible. But this shows where the bear moves in time along this jagged path here as it walks around. Let me just preview this. There he goes. So I do all the animation in this separate composition here and then plop it into the background. because otherwise I'd be dealing with thousands of layers if I had each one of these on a separate layer. So it can be a little bit tricky animating something when you can't see what it's actually walking on, but it's pretty easy to just get a copy of the background and just chuck it behind it just for a reference. Or if you really want, you can get two comp viewers and put them next to each other. Like so, so that you can make changes in one and you'll see it happening in the other. So yeah, this is all just straightforward animation with keyframes, rotation, position, etc. What's this? Oh, that's the shadow. And what's leg shade? Not entirely sure. Oh, right, it's just adding a bit of shadow on the foot. You see, these are the kinds of details that make things look a little bit better than just a cutout bear wandering around. So, the bears. Once I've got the bear animated once like that, I can just, again, just copy and paste them as many times as I like. Bloody hell, there's so many layers here. It's a real pain in the bum trying to find anything. Here we go. So yeah, there's a bear crossing the road. There's another one. And you can see there, he's going behind a lamppost, which is just a mask. You can see here there's options to matte out the layer using the layer above it, which is what I've done here. I've just created a blank layer and drawn this mask that corresponds to the lamppost, so that the bear can walk behind it. More bears. Oh, a pigeon appears. Let's have a look at that pigeon. Why not? Here he is. Now, how did I animate him? Ah, the puppet tool. Sometimes I use the puppet tool if I'm feeling lazy and there's just one simple bit of distortion that I need to do, or something bending like that. The puppet tool is a little bit difficult to use. Well, not difficult to use, but difficult to make it look good. A lot of the time I end up just distorting stuff in other ways just because the puppet tool, it can go... What is happening to this pigeon? Yeah, well, it's good for some things, I suppose. But it does just have a life of its own, a mind of its own, this tool. Oh, that's interesting. Because, I mean, you're moving stuff down here and the head is moving up there. It's kind of very unpredictable. Oh, God. Endless fun. So, yeah, you can move these points around with the puppet tool and animate them. And it will stretch it and bend it. So yeah, I've just literally just moved his neck. And then off he goes. Looks like the flying pigeon is another layer. Wherever that might be. One of the reasons why I have to make things change to different layers in this particular video is because everything's moving in front and behind of each other, which makes things a little bit complicated. So as this pigeon is flying through the air, where has he gone in here? Pigeon hop. Ah, there we go. He's gone into another layer because he's had to go in front of behind this. He's had to go in front of this car, which is going behind that bear, and yeah, you can see how it can get very complicated. One solution for that would be to make everything 3D layers and have them moving in three-dimensional space, just a tiny bit. But I don't know, working with 3D layers can throw up all kinds of other weird problems, so I just decided to stick with 2D layers and just make my life more interesting. So this flying pigeon, we've got wings, body, foot. Oh, that's interesting. The whole thing can loop. These wings have got a bit of motion blur on them. Which I don't normally use these days. I used to use it more because it makes things look more realistic, but I came to realise over the years that everything just ends up really blurry when it's moving around a lot, and sometimes you don't want things to be blurred. And people know they're watching an animation, so they're not going to say, "Oh, those moving things aren't blurring like they would in reality." And it uses a lot of processing power in your computer when you've got a lot of blurred things all moving around at once. So it saves my computer from dying. So let me have another look at the chat. I've missed a lot of questions. Sorry, I'm not looking at the chat when I'm looking at this thing. I've got it open on another computer. Right. Oh, is that Coca-Cola interactive video? It's not online anymore, is it? That's a shame. That was a really weird project. I wonder if I should talk about that one day. Does anybody have any questions they would like to ask me while I'm actually reading the chat? Is there a way to see the video from beginning to end? Yeah, all my videos are on my YouTube channel. I think there's a link on my Twitch homepage somewhere. So yeah, I've got my laptop open as well. I don't have two monitors. I should have two monitors. I should have a bigger monitor. I should have a bigger computer. It's one of those things, you know, if something works, I just stick with it while the rest of the world gets better and more sophisticated. And I'm stuck in with 5-year-old technology. What was your most complicated project? Well, let me think. That rabbit one I made recently was pretty complicated. The music video I made recently with the cats, that was pretty complicated. There were a lot of like 3D layers in that. Oh god, no, I know the most complicated video I've made. Bloody hell. That one with all my face, where the whole thing is just made out of a picture of my face. It's called Because, and it's on my YouTube, and honestly that thing just totally melted my computer. I'd like to talk about that video in one of these streams. And I probably will, but I'm wondering if my computer would even be able to handle looking at it again. One thing I should also mention actually is that my computer is prone to crashing without any warning. So if the stream suddenly stops, you'll know that's what's happened. Could you please show a bit about how you did the shadows of the bear? Yeah, I'll show you that in a moment. These old After Effects files, they open in newer versions of After Effects, no problem. But if you want to save them, you have to save them in whatever newest version you're using. What's your favourite animation you worked on? God, that's difficult. That's difficult to answer because when I'm making these things, it's such an enormous effort that by the time I've finished, I never want to even look at them again. And so I don't feel like I've actually enjoyed the process of making them, but I enjoy the process of having made them and having them exist as finished things. Actually making them is a bit like climbing a mountain where you just have to take it one step at a time rather than think about this enormous mountain that you're having to climb up. But yeah, you've got to make these things, otherwise they just wouldn't exist. Who else is going to make infinite teddy bears on Worthing Seafront? Who else? So, do I like pie? Somebody asks. I don't know. I haven't thought about it. What's your favourite thing to make, e.g. things growing, duplicating, etc.? My favourite thing to make? Not sure. See, once I've made something, I feel like I've made it, and then next time I want to make something else. So I don't really have a favourite thing because I'm always trying to make something different. Well, let's have a look at that shadow of the bear. It's pretty simple. A lot of the time be tempted to do something a little bit more complex for the shadow, but sometimes just a black splodge is all you need. It gives the general idea. And I mean, if you look at the cars, they don't have like amazingly complex shadows or anything. It's just a black shape underneath them. So it is literally just a black solid. When you make a new layer, you can just pick a solid and you can make it whatever colour you want. And then draw a mask in whatever shape you want. And then in the mask settings, you can feather it like so. And hey presto, you have a shadow. You can change the opacity of it. You can change its shape as it moves around. So yeah, it's pretty simple. This particular shadow's got a lot of animation masks on it. Not entirely sure why. Let's have a look. It's right. It's moving. It's stretching as the bear is walking, because the bear's leg kind of stretches and moves. It's kind of, I'm animating it a little bit to match the movement of the bear. I wonder why I've got two masks there. Oh, there's a mask. Oh right, I've got a mask there because the shadow has to come from behind this building, so I've just chopped it off there. So there are other ways to make shadows, but that's the simplest way. So this this video so far is pretty simple. Cars and bears and pigeons. This bear's picked up this guy who just happened to be walking past in the background. Let's see if we can have a closer look at that. If we can find the layer that's bear crossing 3 perhaps? No. Bear crossing 2. Aha, there we go. Really not sure why that bear's disappearing like that. So this guy who just happened to be walking past, he's been chopped out. So I've actually rotoscoped him walking along, which is quite funny. And then I've just repeated a bit of his movement from when he's wiggling. So when the bear picks him up, he goes, "Ah, let me go." You notice that bear when he turns around and walks away, I didn't actually rotate any of his body or anything. I just, his head is just replaced by a layer I made of the back of his head, and his arm just moves position slightly so that it's on the other side of him, which kind of gives the illusion that he's turning around without doing anything complicated. Ah, the pigeon! What an enormous pigeon. So he drops the man off all the way back there, just so that he can walk back. God, I've just noticed something actually. Those clouds in the sky, they're moving ever so slightly as the footage goes along, and then suddenly they move back again. That's quite funny. What's that? Oh right, I see. Because the footage is only so long, you see, and although you don't even notice it, the clouds are actually moving at the top. So when the footage comes to an end, I have to start it back at the beginning again, which would mean the clouds would jump position. So I've just used a tiny little bit of the video and reversed it so that the clouds moved back to where they were at the start. For some reason I thought that would be good. I could have probably done that in a different way that would have looked better, maybe. But I think I just thought it'd be funny to have the clouds rewinding a bit. Oh, that bear, what's he doing? He's grabbing a lamppost. Boosh! Hits a pigeon. Poor old pigeon. Poof! Yeah, this needed sound effects, didn't it, this video? That's instant karma for you there, Mr. Bear. Hit a pigeon, get run over. Oof. Sorry, I keep doing that. I just like it. I don't hate pigeons, but it's not real. It's not a real pigeon. It's only a cartoon. Don't worry. Poor old bear gets dragged along the ground. So suddenly lots of cars appear. Lots and lots of cars. What is going on there? Let's have a look at our millions of players. Look at all these bloody layers. Look at that. Look at that. What is going on? I ask you. There's queues of cars. There's road, bears crossing and everything. Bear riding car. So this was a queue of cars, pretty simple, it's just loads of that car repeated, each behind the other. You can see where I've put a background layer just so that I can have a reference while I'm putting it together. Bear riding car. So none of this is particularly complicated, these techniques. It is very basic cutout animation. It's like none of these techniques are really it's basic stuff. It's like cutting things out and moving it around, but there are little effects here and there that I add just to make things look a bit more, just to blend things a bit more, I guess. Like this bear in the far distance has some he's looks like I've put the contrast down and blurred him a bit because he's in the background. Things in the distance tend to have they're a little bit desaturated and have less contrast, and they're not so sharp. Bears and cars, bears and cars. I seem to remember this big bear being a real pain in the bum for some reason. Let me have a look at him. Yeah, why has he got so many layers here? Giant bear mask, giant bear mask. What is all this? Let's have a look. Oh, right. So the actual bear himself is this layer here. Bear giant. There he is. Bom-de-dom-de-dom-de-dom. I am a giant bear, don't you know? With a strange sideways mouth. Hello, I am a strange bear. How do you do? So yeah, for some reason there's lots of masks. Oh right, I've had to actually add masks to chop bits of the foreground out and stuff like that. Oh, and he's got a shadow as well. Right, he's got a shadow underneath him, I see. And that needed its own separate layer, which is an adjustment layer to reduce the brightness of the background, rather than just having a kind of a black shape. Sometimes it's better to make shadows by actually darkening the background that things are on. So, we've been going for an hour. I think I should have another look at the chat, perhaps. Someone asked me, how did I animate the mouth of that giant bear? Let me just have another look and see. God, how many layers is this giant bear made out of? Giant bear, did you really need so many layers? Well, half of these are actually invisible. I don't even know what they are. Let's have a look. Oh, right. I had the whole load of... Oh, right. Look, I've got the shadow and everything here. I must have done it all in this composition just to work it all out. And then duplicated this so that I could have the just the shadows are in another composition, so that when I put them both into this composition, I have them as separate elements for some reason. I don't know. Sometimes when I'm working on stuff, I need to do this, and it's difficult to know why when I come back to it 6 years later. So what did I do with that mouth? It doesn't look like it's anything complicated. I think it's just a few different layers that I've chopped out bits of his head and just moved them. Yeah, it's pretty simple. I have no idea why I decided to give him a sideways mouth like that. I guess he just looked like some kind of robot bear. So why the hell not? And you can see I've made the top of this bear kind of invisible to blend in with the clouds. So that it might look as if the clouds are actually passing in front of him as well as behind him. So, what other questions do we have? What was your first project with the program? The first project I did in After Effects was called Beastenders, that's right, which is a kind of an EastEnders thing. EastEnders is a soap opera in this country. I should probably do a stream about that one day, because that will be interesting in itself, because I made that while I was learning how to use the software. So that's going to be a complete mess, that project. I dread to think how bad that looks. What software do I use to make the music? I use FL Studio, which used to be called Fruity Loops. I've been using that since about 2002, I think, or maybe even before then. It's quite a long program. I might do a stream about that one day. So somebody asks, I'm curious about whether your animation style came from what After Effects could do, or if you just tortured After Effects until it did what you wanted to do. That's an interesting question. It's the kind of the dilemma that you always have when you're making this stuff of, if you've got a vision in mind, do you just push the program to make it how you want it to look? Or do you just compromise and say, well, I can only do it this way, so I'll just put up with that. And it's a kind of a mixture between the two, really. Some things I compromise just to save time, just because I need to make these things quickly, because I get bored otherwise. So I find shortcuts to doing things which aren't always ideal, but when things are moving fast, you don't always notice. But sometimes I'll just be playing around with the software and doing experiments and just trying things out and come up with interesting effects, and then you can start pushing it further just to see what will happen. And yeah, I've done other videos that are more like that, so I'll probably talk about that more another time. But yeah, it's interesting. Sometimes you have to just go with what you can do, and sometimes that limitation is good in a way. I mean, it's one of the reasons I make a lot of videos just using a particular piece of footage, like this one for example, because I find that when you've got that limitation, you have to be really creative to do anything with it, so it nurtures your creativity to have that. Otherwise, if you've just got a blank canvas and you can do anything you like, then you're sat there looking at a blank screen thinking, what am I going to do? And that's probably one of the reasons why I haven't bothered trying out 3D animation or anything like that, because you can't just make anything then. And so where do you start? Where do you begin? Sometimes you need that kind of inspiration that you get from playing around with something. It's like the materials that you use. They're like a tool in a way. Like it's a bit like painting using video footage. So let me just check any more questions. Any plans of making a mobile game? Good lord. That would be quite cool, wouldn't it? But yeah, I've got enough other stuff to do at the moment, so it's one of those things I'll stick on the... I've got a shelf in my brain which is full of things that I'll get around to doing one day, and I just put things like that on there and forget about them. How do you sync the animation to your music? Do you use markers and plan ahead a lot? Now that is a good question for this particular animation, because with this one, the music I made that goes with it, I can't remember if I made the music before the animation. Well, I would have made the music before the animation anyway, but I have a feeling I might have planned to make the music for an animation, and the reason for that is because I used a particular tempo for the music, which is I think 300 beats per minute, maybe, or 150 beats per minute, which means that every beat falls on every 10th frame when you are working at 25 frames per second, which is very good in After Effects, because if you hold tab, is it tab? No, it's shift. If you hold shift and page down or page up on the keyboard, it moves exactly 10 frames. So that means I can time movements to happen exactly on the beat, and then move easily between things. And yeah, you can if your music doesn't work out like that, if it's like an unusual beats per minute or something, then you can use markers to work it out. Sorry if that deafened anyone. Yeah, you can just like hold down Shift and press 1 and it adds a marker there. So you do that on one beat, go find the other beat and then add a 2 and then you can just flick between them. And then count how many frames that is and you'll know to add another marker the same amount of frames ahead and stuff like that. So I've had to do that a lot when I'm making music videos because nobody ever makes music videos with a tempo that fits exactly on certain frames, which is annoying, but you learn to live with it. So I made my own life easier, and I think I use that tempo a lot in my tunes now, just because I know it'll be handy later on if I ever have to animate to them. So let's go back into this video that we're looking at, see if anything else interesting happens. Just more repetition. A crawling bear crawls away. Oh, the bear has a car driving over him. That poor bear. Let's fast forward. Ah, the long car. This is an experiment. Well, the whole thing was an experiment, really. I was just messing around, making things up as I went along. But I was kind of glad that this actually worked. It's just lots and lots of slices of that car. Let's have a look at that, because it amuses me, the long car. There it is. It's just a million billion layers of that car. So yeah, it's just that car again. It's driving along, but I've added another mask, chopping out the back half of it. And then add another slice behind it, and another one, and another one. And just keep adding these things forever. I wanted to see how long I could make it without it getting ridiculous. If you look closely, I think you might even be able to see somebody in this car. I wonder, who is that? Enhance! Who could it be? Oh dear, so everything's disappeared now. Anyway, that's the long car. Oh, and then a fat bear appears. This is fun. Whoa, whoa, look out. Fat bear, he explodes. Let's see if we can look at that fat bear. Bear crossing explode, he's called. Up he gets. God, I really want to know why it keeps disappearing when I'm scrolling. If anyone knows, let me know. I think it's just After Effects being a bit weird. But yeah, animating an exploding bear is pretty simple. He just hits the ground and then a million small bears appear. But because it happens all in like a couple of frames, it's like he's actually exploded. Bears are everywhere. And this car's got legs now. What on earth is happening to that car? He's walking. Car walk. Ah, right, there he goes. I've given the car legs. He's only got 2 legs, and the reason why is because there are things that move between the front and the back legs, so I had to put the back legs on another layer, which is back here somewhere. And the car has, you can see the car's shadow isn't just a black blob, it's moving along with it's got the legs on it as well. So I went to a bit more effort with that. Let's have a look. Let's just make all these layers appear. Right. So yeah, sometimes it's nice to put a little bit more effort into your shadows. So what I've done here is I've just made a black solid shape and used masks, animated masks, so that the shadow kind of follows where the feet are moving to. So you can see I've got 2 masks there. One is just for the general shape of the car, because that doesn't need to be animated. And the legs kind of have their own little mask on another layer. So yeah, it does help to think about these things like shadows and light sources and stuff like that. Because when you're working with a with 2-dimensional stuff like this, it does look a little bit flat with cutout animation, especially. So anything you can do to just make it look like it is a bit more 3-dimensional helps, especially if you're blending it into an actual real scene like this. And I mean, this is pretty basic as far as that kind of thing goes, but it makes a difference, I think. So let's fast forward again, just a little bit further. A seagull has appeared. Let's have a look at that seagull. I'm curious. Seagull. Yeah, that's interesting. This seagull. I think I filmed this on the pier, and you can see I've done something. Oh god, there's all sorts. I've actually used a tracker, a motion tracker. I wonder why, what particular point. Maybe the seagull itself I've tracked it so that, yeah, I think his feet, you can see his feet kind of stay in much the same place. So I think I've just motion tracked it so that they stay there, so that the seagull stays in one place. And then I've used key light to key out the blue background. And hey presto, a seagull. And then it's just a case of moving him in, swooping him around, and then flying off again. You can see here, I'll talk about this briefly, because sometimes when you're moving stuff around and you want it to be a little bit more natural, rather than just having something moving from there to there and it just goes and stops. Sometimes you need to have it accelerating and slowing down and stuff like that. So there are ways to do that in After Effects. Let me just bring in a new solid layer to give an example. So say I want this to move in from there and then just stop there. So if I just do that, so if he just comes to a sudden stop like that. But you can do things to the keyframes to smooth out, to give it acceleration and deceleration. And there are, I think it's F9 is the shortcut for that. But you can right click and there's a keyframe assistant here. It's called easing, ease in and ease out, and easy ease. Easy ease just makes things slow down to a stop, and it makes things speed up gradually as well. So if I render it now, you can see it starts slowly, speeds up and then slows down again. And if you press this button here, there's a graph editor which shows you what that actually looks like in a graph form. So you can see this is the speed. As it goes up, it goes faster, and then it goes slower as it goes down. And this line here just means it's stopped altogether. So if you want real control over stuff, you can change this graph as well. So if you want it to slow down a lot smoother, you do that. So yeah, sometimes you need to get your hands dirty and mess around with graphs and stuff, which is probably what I did with that seagull. So someone's telling me, disappearing frames thing, you should click in faster preview and click on off final quality. Faster preview. I need to know where to find that. I'll look into that some other day. Yeah, because I'm going to be stopping in 10 minutes time anyway, so I'll look into that. Let's have a look at these cars. Ah, yeah, the cars. Change that pretty simple. It's just cars changing. Here we go. So it's just a case of cutting out each particular car as it drives past, and then matching it up so that it's kind of in the same place. Fairly simple. I haven't even needed to chop it out very much from the background because the background isn't moving anyway. Oh, bear is eating someone. Nom, nom, nom. Nom, 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 nom. Naughty bear. Nom, 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 nom. And the road just splits open. Let's have a look at that. This car's gone all weird and twisted. Let me have a look at that. Ah, right. Ah, there it is. I see. A little bit of mesh warp there. Which I've used to just distort the car a bit. It looks kind of weird. But because it's only on for a couple of frames, I didn't think it would matter. The reason I've done that is just to make it look a bit like it's tilting downwards as it's falling off, because otherwise it would just look a bit strange. Otherwise I'd just have to rotate it. So it's kind of a bit of fake 3D. Stretching the roof out and stuff. Bounce. Down the hole. Right, so let me see. Is there anything else I want to talk about with this? I think after this it just goes a bit mental. Ah, yeah. And you can see again I've distorted the car as it flies upwards. Somewhere here is the layer where I did that. Somewhere. Is that it? No, that's not it. What's this? I'm lost in my layers. Car flip. Is that it? Car flipping. Ah. So yeah, again I've used the mesh warp to distort this car as it flies upwards. And it looks a bit wonky, to be honest. But it all happens so quickly that you don't notice the wonkiness. In fact, it's so quick you probably didn't even notice that I've even bothered doing anything. So, not entirely sure if that added much to the video, but I like to try these things out. So we have cars flipping around and all sorts. I think this was the point where it got so busy that I had to go to a new composition just so that I could delete some of the layers, I think. And let's have a look. Yeah, it gets very busy towards the end. And talking of towards the end, I think we are coming to the end of this particular stream. I think we've been here for like an hour and a half, so that sounds like a good long time to be sitting here chatting. But let's see if anyone's got any more questions. Now is the time to ask. Let's have a little look at the chat, see if I've missed anything. Yeah, the road on top, that is just copied and pasted from down there. Question: what other programs do you use besides Adobe After Effects? As it is pronounced, Adobe. Yeah, I use Photoshop, I guess. Sometimes I don't even bother these days because I only ever used that for cutting things out, and you can do all that in After Effects anyway. So pretty much these days I just use After Effects. How often do you use expressions in your projects, sir? How good are you with them? The answer to that is not at all. I don't use them at all. And I'm sure that they could help me out an awful lot. There's an expression you can use to just repeat things, loop things. But one of the reasons I don't do that is because I just prefer to be able to see what I'm working with. So seeing all the layers that I'm working on in the timeline, it's like having a physical thing rather than just a mathematical expression somewhere. And like I was saying last week, the thing with expressions is you have to know kind of in advance the effect that you want to do with them. And a lot of the time I'm just experimenting and trying things out. So it's better to just have these layers physically here so that I can move them around and play around with them. And again, with a project like this, there are times where I'm having to move layers, change the order of layers so they're going in front of each other and behind each other. So it just helps to be able to see them all. And it helps as well if you're repeating stuff. to be able to see exactly how long it carries on for before it stops repeating and changes to something else. So yeah, I'm sure there are expressions that would be very useful for me. So don't let that put you off actually learning expressions. I just don't have any use for them. Right, let me see. Do you make a living off YouTube? No, I make a living from commissioned work. So YouTube is pretty much just for promotional purposes, I guess, or artistic purposes, because it's where I put all my personal stuff. And I try to keep it separate from my commercial stuff as well, so I try not to put any commercial projects on there. I occasionally put music videos on just because I like them. But yeah, I've lost track of that. Oh yeah, and you get a little bit of money from adverts on YouTube, but it's not a lot, to be honest. Do you prefer working with video or still photos? That's an interesting question. I think the answer is both. I prefer using video and still photos because I kind of change my mind every now and then, because I like working with video footage, because like you can see with this, you're working with three-dimensional objects, and you can see they're three-dimensional because they're moving and turning and stuff, which immediately gives things depth when you're working with them, which is really cool, which is a lot better than just using still photos. But it means you've got a massive extra amount of work involved when you're cutting things out, because you have to deal with things changing shape as they're moving around. So after a project where I've had to do a lot of video manipulation, I feel like going back to just using photos, just because it's so much easier. And you know, sometimes to tell the story that you want to tell, you don't have to do complicated things. You can just keep things simple. I mean, look at this bear. This bear is pretty simple. I mean, his arms and legs don't even bend, but you can still see he's a bear and stuff, and he's walking along. So let me see in the chat. Have you ever tried to make deliberately scary stuff, or do you just focus on weird? To be honest, I don't even focus on. I don't know. I just make things that I like, and people find them scary and weird. Sometimes when I don't, I just think things look interesting or uninteresting, and I'm always trying to make interesting things. And of course, interesting things are usually things that you don't normally see, and things that you don't normally see immediately look weird, especially because I'm always using pictures and video of real things, and when real things do behave in peculiar ways, it immediately looks a little bit disconcerting. It kind of triggers the part of your brain which says, hang on, this isn't right, this is kind of a little bit wrong, it's nearly right but it's wrong. So it's not full-on random weirdness, it's more surreal reality but just given a slight twist. Let me see, any more questions? Do you have commercial projects that your fans may not know about? Well, if you go to my YouTube page, I've got playlists on there for all my commercial stuff, if it's on YouTube. So you should find most of anything I do on there if you look down the playlists. I've got one for music videos, and one for TV stuff, and one for advertising. So yeah, you can find a lot of my other stuff in those playlists. So Someone asks me if I like bananas. They're alright. Bananas are one of those things where I think, man, these are really good. I like these. These bananas, they're excellent. They've got their own little packaging and it peels just right. And then one day you get a banana and you open it up and it's all black and bruised inside and you think, man, you looked fine from the outside. What happened to you? And then immediately all other bananas are like under suspicion. And you think, oh God, you almost dread opening a banana just because it might be horrible inside. But then you open a banana and it's perfect and the world is wonderful again. Thanks to bananas. So, let me see, any more interesting questions? How did I get involved with Adult Swim or Cartoon Network? Basically the way that I get involved with anyone, which is they email me saying, hey, do you want to do some work for us? And I reply saying, yeah, cool. And then I do the work. And if they like it, then they might ask me to do something else. So, I think on that note, on that banana-shaped note, it is time to call an end to this stream. And I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I hope you might have learned something or gained some insight, or just been entertained for an hour and a half of your life. And I will be doing another stream next weekend, I guess. Who knows which project I will do next weekend. Ooh, will I even do a project? Maybe I could try do some live animation. I'm still not entirely sure how interesting that will be because animation is really boring and slow to do, so it's going to be even more boring and slow to watch. But yeah, maybe one day I'll do something like that. I might just look at another project next weekend. So yeah, same time next Sunday. I will see you there.